All right. We will call to order the October 2nd, 2024 regular meeting of APCHA. Cindy, would you start us off with a roll call, please?
Sure. John Doyle?
Here.
Carson?
Here.
John Ward?
Present.
Ward?
Present.
Peter? And Kelly?
Yes, I'm here. Francie's going to take over a little later.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. We'll move on. Are there any agenda amendments? Hearing none, we'll move to public comment. Is there anyone with public comment, either in the room or online? If you're online, please unmute yourself. Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comment and move to Board of Directors comments, and we'll start online with Kelly.
I don't have any off the agenda today.
Thank you. Peter?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to bring up maybe for a future agenda item, but some renters reached out to me just concerned about their reapplication or requalification. And I don't think there's any criticism. I think they're just adjusting or responding to kind of tighter requalification standards, and wanted to talk with the board about how we can help
Can we turn
those
him on?
people, particularly that are self-employed, with templates and any kind of workshops or anything that would give comfort to these folks that are adjusting to kind of the changes in the requalification process, because I understand it's not easy for everyone to organize all that information, and it ends up creating more staff work when it's incomplete. And just want to find a win-win between renters in APCHA and staff.
Thank you, Peter. John?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was disappointed that the Farm Bill didn't pass, which had some local governments were working with the Forest Service to try and establish some housing sites on government land, and it's been held up because of budget talks until November, so the 5-year deadline has been missed. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it's a bit of a setback for us, for Aspen. I believe there was a site in Steamboat and a site in Silverthorne that were all scheduled to be housing sites.
And that would have been on Forest Service land?
Forest Service
Yeah.
land. And the hitching point is right now, the law is they're not willing to sell the land, which is kind of interesting since they did sell some land over in the West End. But right now it's set at 50-year leases, and our city staff has decided that that's not a real good investment for us. If we can get it moved to a 100-year lease, that would make a lot more sense. Anyway.
And that's the Forest Service building, right?
Yep.
And land around it.
Yeah, mostly land around it. And there's 7 different entities that are trying to work together to get some housing on that site, which would be obviously really great on this side of the roundabout.
Yep, and the bus line too.
Also super complicated because there's, again, 7 people,
Yeah.
7 entities working together. Anyway.
Ward?
Yeah, I want to bring forward something I really would like to see the board suss out and put forward. We have so many things that are falling under the umbrella of right sizing. We've tried to have exchanges to downsize, and we've seen the difficulties in finding the right match of people and the right bedrooms, and how it gets complicated with outstanding loans and everything else. So although we've tried and our intentions are to right size and to maximize the utilization of the APCHA workforce housing inventory, the complications are so great that we rarely find a match. But there, I think, is a way that we can start off with people that are retiring, people that are in APCHA units, that are sale units, they're retiring, and to make and incentivize people to move out, not to be in APCHA anymore, and by perhaps some cash subsidy jointly by the city and county, we could gain a whole unit for what, $100,000 or something, just to sweeten the pot so that people can move out. And oftentimes people that have been in units and they're retired, they haven't turned over a lot, so that the resale price is lower than some of the other units that have turned over a lot. And I'm going to get to this with comments about the information Liz is going to present to us, but that there should be some ways to fund this so that people are incentivized to move out of retirement APCHA units, gain a whole unit, 2-3 bedrooms, for a very affordable price. To get a unit for, free up a unit for, say, $100,000 or X amount of dollars is a lot less expensive than constructing a new one for $1 million, and all of the environmental concerns with new construction and hauling stuff away. And so I would really like to get the interest of the board to pursue this as a program that we could initiate sooner rather than later.
Can I ask a question to follow up to Ward's
Please.
comment? Do we have up-to-date information on kind of the current number of retirees that might, to kind of understand the pool that we were targeting?
Can I call Liz to the table for a minute?
In the biennial affidavit, we do ask people if they're retired or not. And as of the 2023 affidavit, I think about 9% of households were indicated themselves as a qualified retiree.
So roughly 300.
Yeah. I think
It was like 250 was and also I included semi and fully retired in that, just because some of those folks could retire, but they're working a little too. We do ask every other year.
Okay. Kelly?
Yeah, I was wondering, this seems like a good topic that would merit some type of focus group conversation. You know, I think we've done some survey. We do have information from surveys in the past, but I think like some genuine kind of group conversations or brainstorming with some of this 9% population to understand very clearly what it would take might be an approach that I think would be effective here. And I wonder if we have any staff capacity for that, or if there's a way to try and figure out how to build capacity for that, if Matthew and team think that that is a good idea.
Matthew?
Kelly, we do think that's a good idea, and Meg and Liz are in the process of pulling together a focus group with people in this situation to discuss their situation with them, and hopefully come up with some things we haven't thought about because we're not in that situation. So yes, that's what we are doing.
Well, great. If I can be helpful, or we can synergize through the senior center or something like that, maybe there's a way to bring everybody in for lunch and have this conversation or something along those lines. I'd be happy to help coordinate.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Meg and Liz are nodding enthusiastically, so we'll follow up with you.
Great.
Excellent. John Ward?
So this was one of the topics I was going to bring up, and it meshes in with it's election season. The county's got an issue on the ballot that I think we were going to talk about endorsing today, but I think that's important. But I've said this in a lot of different meetings, creating some kind of incentives, net bedroom gain, something to get people to churn units. We've tried to come up with some kind of off-the-book incentives. I think that's important, but I also think, much like you talked about figuring out ways to preserve stock, right? Coming up with incentives to get people, or help to get people to take care of their units, single-family homes, HOAs, take care of their structures, whatever else. I think those are, to me, key issues that we need to really address. And we're the idea men group. But we're going to need help from city and county to come up with the idea, with those solutions. I think incentivizing people to move. I've had lots of conversations with people that I'm stuck. I can't move. I can't move to Scottsdale, or can't move to somewhere in Arizona. I can't move somewhere warmer to get out of the snow because I can't afford it. And so having some kind of incentive to push people along, to allow them to get out of their units, and then bring a new family in, or a new worker bee into those units, I think is important. I think that's really where the rubber meets the road. So I agree 100%.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I mean, I too am in agreement. I mean, I think that we've tried the right sizing program, and we've had less success than we would like. And so I think it's a pilot program, and the nature of a pilot program is it continues to evolve. So I think it's something we should definitely look at. And then I'll just piggyback off of what Peter said. I too have heard just a lot of comments, primarily from people in rentals that are self-employed, just adjusting to the new program. So I don't know if, I think Peter mentioned it, templates, or even if it's just an example, maybe just if we have an example of here's what we would like to see. We may already have that, I don't know, but just anything we could do to try and help people adjust is I think would be appreciated.
Oh, one other comment. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was in the Denver Post. It was another newspaper about the Kroger merger with Albertsons, and Kroger has created a regional kind of pricing strategy. Not that we all didn't kind of know this already, but it came out during the testimony yesterday that they'd created a regional pricing strategy where they could up-price groceries in Carbondale, Aspen, Glenwood Springs, Vail, some of our markets, because and if I were Clark's Market, I'd be real upset with this, but that they didn't feel they had competition in those markets. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's another kind of, fight against inflation, and that started in 22 with Kroger. So, something you got to consider. Everybody in our housing's fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder I'm hopeful that's something. I know we're doing an affordability survey. I would hope that would be something that group would take into account as they're kind of reviewing the costs and what those specific metrics would look like. I mean, I don't know if there's a way for us to ask.
I can just go quick and say, I know Matthew was going to say that the contract for the rental rate and affordability study has been approved through City Council, so they're starting work this month. And that was something we definitely built in the scope of work to look at affordability. It's like, what do people make, and what's the cost of living here with all the things in there. So we will be looking at that.
Great.
If I just could jump in on this comments about the requalification difficulties, that the public has really more or less demanded, or they're really interested in to make sure that everybody that's in the rental units and the units they're qualified. And I think that our audits have proved, they've demonstrated that people do qualify, that there's a very, very little percentage, 1% maybe, 2%, that don't qualify, but the difficulties of making sure that people qualify are coming back, and become objectionable to some, but it's something that the community is really more or less forced upon the APCHA system.
Right, and I think the feedback that I've heard is I think more related to people maybe that have not done as good a job tracking in the past as they probably should have, and I think it's an adjustment. And so, I mean, I think if there's a way for us to just to show them, how we want to see it going forward, I think that
Yeah, it might be it might be easier on staff to have a work session or what did Peter call it, a work group or something that workshop might relieve some of the stress on the staff to be addressing a bunch of people at one time.
I'm just thinking, just anything we can do to avoid staff having to go through the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, we'll move to Executive Director's comments. Matthew.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Matthew Gillen, Executive Director. So while we're on the self-employed conversation, so on page 17 of the regulations, we do go through everything, the additional documents required for self-employed people. So it's like business and personal banking records, proof of operating expenses, proof of hours worked, copies of client invoices, client lists, City of Aspen home occupancy license if required, City of Aspen business license if doing business within, and a detailed business plan, and then also other documentation as deemed necessary. So we have, because there are so many different kinds of self-employed businesses, we have avoided doing a template, and we've been asking people to bring us those documents, but we're happy to, at any time revisit that and make things easier. And I think that's a good idea, that we could do some workshops or, lunch and learn and for people. So, to our mind, it's pretty clear what we're asking for, just to the people approving they're working the 1,500 hours. But if the community wants further clarification, we're happy to do that.
Peter?
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any kind of software that's already out there that would alleviate staff from doing a lot of this heavy lifting, where it helps people through this. And I mean, just looking at that list, I'm not totally familiar how I would do it, and I know for people that aren't super savvy, it creates a lot of stress. So
yeah, I mean, I think there are programs where people track their hours and programs where people build their business off those platforms, and if there are reports or printouts from that, we're happy to look at them. But we don't have.
You haven't seen it?
We don't have one we recommend or use, because people do different things.
Or have you seen? I guess if you see one, maybe that
works well.
That works well.
I can check with the staff. Yeah, exactly. QuickBooks or something. I'll check on that. But yeah, we can do some reach out on that. Okay, I have a number of other things. Okay, as Liz said, all the rental rate study contract was approved by City Council, and they're going to be starting work on that next month. All the capital reserve studies on-site assessments have been completed, and they are now analyzing those, compiling the report, and they'll be coming in the next couple of months. So that's all done. The tax transcript I wrote in negotiation with procurement, but in fact, as of this afternoon, we did get the final okay from City of Aspen IT department. So we're ready to wrap that up, so we'll be able to start doing the tax transcripts for applicants very soon. So that just happened this afternoon, which is great. The HOA info meeting with Molly Foley-Healy yesterday was a huge success. We had about 50 people.
I don't know if there was that many,
Okay,
but
not quite 50.
city council chambers was full.
Yeah. And Molly has expressed, we've asked her if she'd like to do that more often, or even build that up into kind of more of a help desk-y situation, and she's receptive to that. So we're going to be working more closely with Molly, which is great. The hearing officer bid is closed. We had 3 applications. We'll have those applications in the next packet for you guys to decide who you'd like to move forward with, or for a formal interview, or how you'd like to do that. So we'll have that in the packet for you, the next one. That only closed on Monday, so it wasn't available for this packet. The laundry installation at Truscott is nearly finished. We're just waiting on a few of the machines at Truscott, some of the dryers. And right now, everybody can wash their clothes for free. So they're enjoying that. So we're nearly done with that, and I'll do,
Big money maker. I'm gonna run over there.
Yeah.
Got a key or anything?
You need a key.
and I'll do what do you council people call it? Information-only memo. I'll do an information-only memo, which will be in the council packet, because I know you had some interested council members. And I'm just holding off until it's done.
Yeah, and we always need more stuff to read.
Great. We did more customer service training with Scott Bowman last week, and he is hoping to come to a board meeting by the end of the year. So he had some interesting insights, which I want to share with you, and we're working well with him. He's the consultant who's been working with the city of Aspen for about 10 years, and so we've been engaging with him this year on some of our customer service and process mapping to improve.
What was his name
efficiency.
again?
Scott Bowman. He's done a lot of work with parks and various other. Yeah.
I met him just. Yeah.
Staff will be attending the Housing Colorado conference next week, so I think we'll still be online if you want to get in touch with us, but we won't be in the office. And then the one thing I did want to give you heads up and see if there are any questions on. We had a complaint, anonymous complaint about that the deed restriction at Smuggler Park was being violated in various ways by various people. So it wasn't on a specific person or a specific group of people, but to take that seriously, we have asked all Smuggler Park owners to give us their 2023 Colorado tax return, which is the quickest, not necessarily the most in-depth, but we'll follow up on that, the quickest way to show that they are living and that's their domicile. So the Smuggler Park subdivision deed restriction is a little different than the other ones. You only have to live there 6 months and a day, and the work requirement is different as well. So this anonymous complaint alleged that there were a number of people who were not living in their unit. So we discussed it internally, and we decided that was the quickest way to get some good information on the state of the Smuggler Park subdivision. So we sent that out last week, and I'm bringing this up to you guys in case you hear complaints, because we've had a number of owners there assert to APCHA staff that we have no right to those documents and this is outrageous, et cetera, et cetera. We've politely replied that yes, indeed, we are empowered by the City of Aspen, the APCHA Board, and Pitkin County Board of County Commissioners to enforce deed restrictions using the regulations, and the regulations clearly state that we are entitled to documents as we see fit. So I just wanted to flag that to you, that we're taking this complaint seriously, and we'll be following up with people if there's an issue. So far not, but there has been a little bit of unhappiness, which we have tried to deal with very politely.
Do those deed restrictions, do you know, when are those up?
They are up in
2037.
So that one is not that far away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. And the APCHA board seat, there were no applicants for the board seat, but the Pitkin County is re-advertising it, and we're also pushing that on social media. So we're doing what we can, but you guys have the ties to the community. So if you know any people, and if there's any questions on how to apply, it's on the Pitkin County website. But if there's any, if you need help just getting through that, let me know, and we'll walk you through it.
And on that, I would just say to the elected officials, and maybe not in the way that it was written in the past, but I think in the past in practice, how it worked out was that if you were the alternate and a voting position came over, that the alternate was sort of slotted into the voting position, and then the new person was the alternate. I know that is not the way that it is written, I do think that that makes sense just from a board continuity standpoint. I mean, we've got, Peter, who has been here, has been in the meetings, has been a participant. And, to me, it makes more sense to have that alternate move into the voting position and the new person be the alternate. So, for whatever that's worth, obviously you guys are the ones making that decision. So, okay, Cindy.
Just a reminder to continue to look on our website for rental units and ownership units. We do have a lottery that's going, not a lottery, but we have something that's up for sale right now. And I know that we're going to be adding another, I believe, home at, I believe it's a 2-bedroom home at Woody, W/J Ranch next week. This week, we have a Centennial unit this week, and we have a Centennial unit that's coming on board as well. So, yeah, and there's a property on Dean Street, South Aspen Street. South Aspen Street is what it's called. So please look on our website for ownership possibilities as well as rental possibilities as too. So that's the most important thing to do, sign up for notifications.
And I'll add to that we had the business-owned lottery
Yes,
this week or last
we
week.
had that this week.
And there were 22 applicants on that.
A little disappointed to see Skiko on there.
Well, they're Pitkin County.
They're a Pitkin County
They
employer.
shouldn't be bidding on stuff like that. Absolutely not.
Well, it was a wide range of applicants, and so. Okay.
They do supply a lot of housing for their employees.
Yeah, and they should supply more and not bid up for a small business that they can afford $1 million property and then downsize it. A small business probably can't.
All right, so we'll move to the consent calendar. And I think we'll separate these. So first we'll do minutes of September 4th, 2024 regular meeting. Any amendments or a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes.
Motion from Ward,
Second.
second from John Ward. Any discussion? Okay, it's a roll call vote.
Okay. Ward, Howenstein,
Stein, yes.
John Ward,
Aye.
Carson,
Yes.
Kelly.
I'm going to abstain since I missed that meeting.
Okay.
And Peter.
Oh, and Peter. Sorry, Peter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll move to the approval of resolution number 6, series 2024, resolution of the Aspen Pitkin County Housing Authority in support of the Pitkin County ballot question 1A. And for this, Kelly, can I turn this over to you to introduce this?
Sure, and I can present as much or as little as the board decides they would like to hear. I have about a 7-minute PowerPoint, if that's helpful to everybody, though I know that you did receive a presentation on this from Ashley Pearl and Francie at the last meeting. And so you guys tell me, the resolution really spells out what we're trying to achieve in the ballot measure, which is a dedicated property tax for a new housing revenue for Pitkin County. The goal is to raise $8.5 million per year and to deliver 250 new units over 10 years. The approval is for a 25-year period, and the impact on property owners is about $10 a month per $1 million in residential value and $36 per month per $1 million of commercial value. You all know the need, so maybe I'll just pause there and see how deep you would like me to dive.
I'm just going to move to approve the resolution. Number 6, Series 2024, a resolution of the Aspen Pitkin County Housing Authority in support of the Pitkin County ballot question 1A.
Okay, I've got a
Do we add
motion.
one C to that too? Oh wait, sorry. Just 1A.
Got a motion from John.
I have a question of Kelly. This is not just for workforce housing. Could you detail what other initiatives are going to be funded by this? In how it's going to be split up?
Yes. So we are, endeavoring through partnerships with governmental entities, nonprofits, small business, housing trusts that we're looking to stand up, and others to partner on the conservation, construction, and conversion of new units that are not currently in the deed restricted inventory. We also are prioritizing the money that we would bring to the table in an equity stack of a project for what we're calling critical community services. So that would be to house road and bridge, transit, public safety, healthcare workers, childcare, teachers. I think I'm leaving someone out from that, but it's all listed in the ballot language and in the resolution. In order to, to really get the folks that make our community hum house. And what I've observed is that, institutions that have dedicated funding are doing a really good job housing their employees, and those that aren't. So for example, most of our snowplow drivers, 90% plus, do not live in Pitkin County. Same with majority of RAFTA drivers. We additionally are allocating a portion of the revenue for buy-down programs for this new Capital Reserve Maintenance Fund, which is dedicated to the preservation of our aging inventory. We also want to dedicate some for homelessness solutions. We really observed that we have a gap in how we provide homelessness solutions, and that is the challenging population that I think in particular this city has been wrestling with. These are the folks who don't belong in jail, don't belong in the hospital, but they have recurring kind of mental health and substance abuse issues and no real good place to go and get wraparound services. So that's the gap that we're trying to plug with that bit of money as well.
Thanks, Kelly.
And approximately how much of these funds are going to be towards the homeless? Because I know that there is some resistance on some people on even funding homelessness, and it's not me, but there are objectors to this.
Sure. And I have been meeting with some of your individual objectors who have personally voiced concern. It's not a large proportion. We didn't spell it out in the tax the same way like we spell out buckets in the open space tax, but in our conversations as a board, we were thinking about like 5% would be about the max. We don't need a lot there. We're talking about maybe 10 people. The good thing about what we're done with homelessness in this community is we really have a very good sense of who we're serving and the population we're serving, and how they move in and out of homelessness. And so it's really a solvable problem. And so that's, the low number is what we really think we need to make a big impact in this area.
And thank you, Kelly, and I'm appreciative of the county's efforts on the behalf of the homeless community.
And I would just say, we've also had conversations, while we've committed to wanting to prioritize our critical workforce, we would never let units sit empty. So similarly to how APCHA has some priority, that's how we're thinking of it in a project as well. This would also allow us to contemplate some senior housing and getting folks who've retired from our workforce into something that's better designed for aging in place and may give more options to free up those pinch points in the housing continuum that we're seeing in the affordable housing units.
Thanks, Kelly. I've got a motion from John Ward.
Francie's got her fingers up. Yeah, I need a second. It's gonna die with
Second.
Okay, I've got a second from Ward, and so discussion, Francie?
Thanks, Carson. Thank you, Ward, for your kind words. We know that you support us, and we really appreciate that a lot. I just want to second everything that Kelly said. We are fully behind this, and I hope that we can work towards getting it passed. I think it'll make a big difference for a lot of people.
Great. Any further discussion? Okay. It is a roll call vote.
Okay. Kelly,
Yes.
Peter,
I don't see Peter online.
I think he had to leave at 4:30, so he might be off.
Okay.
Carson,
Yes.
John Ward,
Yes, ma'am.
Ward Howenstein.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Move to data trends update with Liz.
If I could just make one more, I would love it if I could work with the city representatives and John in your capacity on the fire district to also come before your boards on this matter as well. And
Sure,
with
we
that,
got
I'm
a
gonna
board
pass
meeting
it
next
off.
week. I'll add you. Can you be there Wednesday?
Yes. You tell me when.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Kelly,
pass-
October 8th for city council.
Yo me opongo.
Hola.
We've got a whole bunch of people. I don't know if we're being
Okay.
spammed. Hold on a
Thank you.
second. Hold on.
Oh, I got spam once. There get some
Hello.
nasty pictures start popping in at some point.
I'm
Not
gonna
again.
help you.
Oh, hold on. If you're
I just got spammed.
¿Por qué se ponía?
okay.
Hola, amigo.
Let's see. Axel Morior, whatever.
There's like 20 of them.
Yeah, let's
It's
growing.
growing.
let's boot Axel. Let's
Hold
or
on.
let's mute them.
Yeah, let's at least mute them and
Uh,
Don't let them take over your screen. The stuff you get on your screen will
Gringos,
be shocking.
Regina.
Unos besos o qué?
It's
was that
growing.
here that was hacked? Could have
Can I
been.
just remove them all?
Yes.
Hold on.
Fancy
Should just lock the
X
meeting
me?
at some point.
Yeah.
Need like cybersecurity here.
Ines.
I didn't accept them. They just got, I'm gonna close down the meeting for a second. I apologize.
No, pues unos besos o qué, Franci. No sé, tú di.
recording stopped.
Me das la green card y no sé.
Sorry. Sorry.
That was really strange.
I
United
didn't-
Nations General Assembly.
Yeah, this has been, like, what the heck's
So I
going
just say
on?
there's.
I blame the
After
TV
the last
people.
time that happened, thank you.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
That was just
Was that here? Was
horrible,
that them?
Yes, that was here.
That was.
Some things you can't
That
unsee.
was here.
Exciting.
I guess APCHA is a
Recording in
target.
progress.
It's pretty good, 598 square feet for 178,000.
Rejoin
was that
also.
one?
Oh, it's Centennial.
So once we get, so then remove.
I'm removing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know who these people, I
I
don't
think
know how they
somebody's
got it.
even
crazy
get-
to buy a Centennial.
I mean, it hasn't been making me use a
Sometimes
people
passcode
do,
to get
though.
on.
I know.
Finance them. They're on a list. Some places won't finance them. But I think there's a market for them, no matter what the structure
Yeah,
is.
there is. We've been working with them a long time. They're not.
Probably
Sorry.
12 years ago, John Forrester came. He was on their
All right.
board.
I'll try.
Showed him how to get it done. It was like a $3 or $4 million project at that time, and they absolutely refused to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
We're getting
You
there.
guys
did the right thing.
The city's gonna take
Well,
care of
I'm.
it.
Yeah.
I'll get in and then I
It
can
wasn't
share my
in the
screen.
city when
Sorry,
it was
the
built,
meeting.
and the city
No worries.
wasn't a
Okay.
partner in it.
Well, that was interesting.
So Peter, but I think he
I
left.
think
He
Peter
left,
left. He
yeah.
told me that he had to leave around 4:30,
Okay.
so I think he's left.
I think this was it. I mean, if Kelly, I know Kelly had to leave as well, so. We have
Sorry.
Francie, so we still have a quorum.
We have
I'm trying
time.
to let her in to share the screen.
Promise I. Valid.
Francie, your, the ballot issue 1A and to me 1C are tied a little bit because, you know, being able to make the decision on 1C and take FAA funds allows you to do things like 1A, doesn't it? I mean, be able to ask for tax dollars, whatever else, because if you don't, you're gonna have to ask for tax dollars to fix the airport.
That's a really interesting question. So the first answer is that all of the funds generated at the airport have to be spent at the airport because it's an enterprise fund. However, it does translate into well, let me put it this way. If we don't have FAA funding, which would be part of 1C, then in order to keep the airport open, we would have to do bonding. It would be revenue bonding, which is strictly related to the airport and the revenue that we get from, well, at this point, Atlantic. So by receiving funds from the FAA to maintain the airport allows us room for other bonding issues for other needs. So
Yeah, but
yes, they are related
You
because
can't really continue to
we
go back
need
to the
bond for
taxpayers and
something
ask for
else.
more money all the time, right? I mean, that's the big thing.
Say that
There's a
again,
limit
Chris?
on how much you can bond.
Yeah, it's about bonding. It's not about the actual cash, it's about bonding capability.
Sure.
Would you state, I'm sorry, I can't admit people who we don't know their name right now because we're being spammed. If I don't recognize their names, I apologize.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so right now, we're having some technical difficulties with some people that are trying to spam the meeting and join and disrupt the meeting. So we have currently
There are a lot of people in the meeting.
locked the meeting, and we're not allowing additional Zoom participants in.
Okay.
And did it sound to you guys like the people who were coming into the meeting were saying Francie?
No, it was.
No.
I think they were. I'm wondering if it was the few Venezuelans that we still have left in the valley. I don't know how they would get onto this, but that's what I was thinking was going on.
I apologize.
They were from Springfield, Ohio.
Well, probably not then.
Okay, well, we'll just press on then. Anyways, so it's been a while since you received a quarterly report. The last one was for quarter one that occurred last spring 2024, and then there was just a lull in the time between since Andrew used to usually give these, and so in the meantime I agreed to take that on, and we're still in the process of hiring APCHA's housing policy analyst, so that individual will take it on after me. And so I decided to sort of take a pivot though with them from previously, and I'm happy to take feedback. And again, when this new housing policy analyst is hired, this may change too. But the idea here was that to keep these a little bit more high level and also to restructure them eventually, just because it didn't really feel like looking at it at a quarter and by quarters made sense. And again, happy to take feedback on this and move towards these higher level annual data presentations with, of course, as needed, other data presentations as needed throughout the year as questions come up or we want to see specific things, and we could do it more frequently than annually too. But the idea there was to figure out how we can make these more meaningful for the work the board does, and that way we could start comparing from year to year, because it looks like usually when we compare a quarter to a quarter, it's a good snapshot in time. Here's everything APCHA received, and also sometimes it's just so dependent on what properties come up sometimes too. And so you wonder, like, well, we had this many more bidders, and well, it's because we had this many more properties turn up. So we're sort of moving in that direction. And I did do a normal report and put it in the packet as well in case you wanted to see more detailed data or see what other information we had available too. Because also I'd love to get ideas and questions about how to continue building these reports moving forward so that they fit the work that the board does and go from there. And so that being said, today does just focus on quarter two, and it includes most of the information that usually is in these reports, but I just summarized it a bit more. And I'm happy to always come back to if certain questions come up about the data too. So that being said, we'll dive in.
A question, Liz,
Yeah.
before was there an attachment or supposed to be an attachment that had the normal report, because my packet
Maybe it
PDF
wasn't
doesn't
in
have
there.
that?
Well, if that being said, we can make sure to send it out.
Okay, please.
Yeah, I did. So this looks exactly like the previous home check reports, and I had attached it just so that you also had some consistency and knew that since this is how the quarterly reports usually have been formatted and looked, and this time I decided to zoom out a bit when looking at it. So to start us off, here's just the APCHA by the numbers. Here's our inventory as a whole. And since the last presentation, we did increase by 1 unit. So this was a free market ownership unit, Hunter Creek, that was added to the inventory. It was added due to a mitigation requirement, pretty much. And of course, I did leave the music room. This is how it tabulates, but I did leave the music rooms in there too. Obviously, those are not housing units either, but this just gives you a good idea of where our inventory is at right now. And I was just speaking to some consultants yesterday that were just in awe about how many units APCHA oversees too. It's pretty incredible. Next, looking at applications received in Q2. So 255 applications in total. And as you know, so this is including all of our long-term rentals, tax credit rentals, seasonal rentals, sales, ownership. And out of the 255, only 5 of these were denied, actually. And the reasons for denial for these 3 all had to do with people not requiring all the necessary paperwork. So 2 cases not providing proof of full-time employment, and then the other 3 not verifying their income and assets or providing all of that information as well. So 5 out of 255. Another thing I wanted to note here is, so the quarter runs, so it's about 91 days, and this only is applications also that were fully completed, so approved or denied, not the number APCHA actually received. So receiving around, finishing around 3 a day throughout the quarter.
Hey, so
Yeah.
real quick, I'm just looking at your inventory totals. What are
Yeah.
the music rooms?
I could just take those off, but they've always been in the reports too. So that's at Meralt, the music rooms there.
Just practice.
Yeah. So they are.
That's why I'm kind of wondering. They're not really housing rentals.
No, they're not. Yeah. So we could just
Could
take
put
those
beds in
off,
them and then-
but that they come up as units in our inventory. But nobody lives in those and would want to live in those, I think. Okay. Any questions about the applications APCHA took in throughout?
So those 5 out of 255, they're evicted from their units, or the unit was not renewed, or?
No, so these are all applications that APCHA received, whether it's requalification. So 4 of those, so 1, 2, 3 were qualifications, 2 were requalifications. So they just didn't provide the paperwork. I don't know about the 2 requalifications. Probably they would have had to have left their unit if it was a requalification.
Karen's shaking her head.
You shouldn't, so, that is usually what happens if somebody's given, we start at 120 days before their application is up. If they do not come in and requalify for that, we do, and they obviously do not provide documentation that they're working full-time in Pitkin County. They may also be way over income as well. We end up having to deny them. So there is not a lot of that. We try to do our best to work with them. If this is somebody who is close to just cannot quite show us that 1,500 hours, we'll work with that person, and we will give them 1 year and say, you may not 100% qualify now. We'll give you a year to provide us more documentation so that we know that you're working the 1,500 hours. So we work as much as we possibly can. But that was for the people who they just did not provide us their application paperwork.
Didn't we do some exceptions or kind of a blanket percentage, kind of 2021, 22, I'm trying to
For
remember.
COVID, we did. We totally.
Was that for work hours? I thought it was for income too, like we
That was for
let
work,
go
that was
above and
for
beyond.
work hours, more than anything, because people were not able to work. So we actually, I don't know if it was 2020 or 2021, but it was for COVID, we basically waived that year
work
of the
requirement.
1,500 requirement.
And usually it is a denial field if someone's over in income. So there was none of those in this case as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I received an inquiry about somebody that said that they were only earning 72% of their income within Pitkin County and that they're supposed to earn 75. I don't know who that person was. It was forwarded to me, but I would think that,
If somebody's close, we will work with them.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that was my response. is-
Okay. All right. Next, looking at bids. So this is a big chart, but it's in your memo as well. So these are all the properties that are available to bid on. And one distinction here too is that number doesn't mean that's the total number of bids that unit received, because maybe after that quarter ended, it received more bids, but it gives us a snapshot again. So the unit that we saw with the least amount of bids was one of the Hunter Creek units. And then, I mean, there were 6 units that had 20 plus bids on them as well. And, I mean, as you all know, the number of bids received, there's a lot of different factors that go into that. It's what's the category of the unit, the number of bedrooms, where is that property located? So I have a few other slides on bids as well. Yeah. Okay. And I can come back to any slides as requested. More on bidders. So the category of the bidders, again, this is going to depend on what's the category of the units that are available as well. So we're seeing, and this also includes household size too. So,
So Liz, all of these units that are listed were sold?
so these not were closed on, but during the quarter they at least were available for bid. So they might still be have the lottery coming up or being closed.
I wonder if it's possible, and I don't want to, it is probably available on the website, but the sale prices of these individual units, if that could be listed, if that's public information.
it has to be public information.
Yeah, and it's something we have, and I pulled the sales prices on the units that closed during the quarter as well, but something we could also look at.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so then I mean, 84 Category 4 owners, least amount Category 1, but there's also not a lot of Category 1 units as well. So this is the categories of the bidders we saw, and in total, 245. Keep going. This is some other interesting information. The average household size for folks that were bidding is about almost 1.5. And also a lot of the units that are available were studios and 1 bedroom, so that also plays into that. The average work experience of those who were bidding was 7.3 years. The most we saw was 33.8. And some of that also has to do with, out of the 12 lotteries that happened during this quarter, 9 of these folks already lived in APCHA deed restricted housing. So we do see a bit of movement through the inventory in that way as well. And 5 of those people were owners too. So they've probably been in the community for a long time. And now this one looks at closings, which I pull, and I do give the individual
Yeah, I see that.
prices in there as well. This one I just pulled the averages though, so just to look at, here's the number of units that closed during this quarter, what category they were, and then this just was to give a general idea of how much these units are going for as well. So by category and by bedroom versus, instead of just looking at it by the category of the unit or just by the bedrooms of the unit. So to compare and say, all right, so a family this size at this category, this is about how much that type of unit is going for, and looking at that. And, all right, keep going. And now some just stats on APCHA managed rentals. So I did still pull the maintenance requests that APCHA receives, plus the property, and then also the new, renewed, and number of move-outs at properties as well. And I mean, looking at the number of move-outs for the property by property, APCHA doesn't see too much turnover in their rental properties at all, especially depending on the property. Like looking at previous quarters, it didn't feel like Aspen Country Inn and Smuggler Mountain Apartments especially have much turnover. And then even at Truscott, it's fairly low as well. And you can see a fair amount of renewed leases. And as far as maintenance requests, nothing really stuck out as there's any big issues there as well. But if you have any questions about those, welcome to ask. So that's all I really had for presenting on data today, just to kind of give a snapshot of what happened in quarter two, and to let you know in January we are going to plan to have a bigger, more annual look at the year and compare it to last year as well, to hopefully get some bigger takeaways than you can really get from just looking at a quarter as well. But I was hoping this could also just give some ideas if there's other information you think is really important to look at, you'd like to request as well, questions about what data we have. But
So you said you got, what was the number of people moving from an APCHA unit to another APCHA unit?
yeah, let me go back to that. So 9 of the 12 already lived in APCHA deed restricted
So it
housing,
would be
whether it's rental or
interesting
ownership.
to dig into a little bit of, we've talked about downsizing. Are these mostly, and I brought up net bedroom gain this morning, or earlier, but it would be interesting to know the motivation for moving. Is it complex? Is it going from a 2-bedroom to a 2-bedroom? Is it going
think
from a
we do
2-bedroom
ask
to a
them-
3-bedroom?
We ask them why they're moving usually. So it's
And some of
something
these
we
are
look at.
renters that actually won lotteries.
Okay.
Some
So
of
that
them.
are in either Centennial, Castlewood, or ours.
4 of the 9 were
Yeah.
ownership, but there was some
Renters.
churn between ownership to ownership, right? Has it
5 of the
been?
5 of the 9 were owners.
So what
4
would,
were renters.
yeah, so what would be that motivation for it? Was it,
We had
nicer
bigger
and
units.
complex
Yeah,
unit,
bigger units, or when Burlingame 3 went up, some people wanted to move into the
the
newer
units?
community. Yeah. But it's something we could look into, definitely.
If there's a story to tell there or not, I don't know, but.
Francie?
Thank you. I can't find the button for raising my hand. Sorry about that. So if owners win a bid on another unit, then their original unit becomes available for sale, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just wanted to make a comment about looking at all your data. What I noticed is that our affordable housing prices are equal or above housing prices in most communities. It's pretty
Free market.
shocking. Say again?
Above free market in other communities.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, yeah. It's
Not in
pretty
this,
shocking.
not in this
Not in
valley,
this valley.
right?
No.
I mean, not even probably Grand Junction on some of these, but they're still affordable, right? For a 4-bedroom, Cat 4, 219,000. That's a pretty good price. 307 for a 2-bedroom in Category 4 and I mean, they're Centennial, obviously, but you've got some good units.
Yes, but in places in Iowa or Ohio or Alabama or other places, those would buy you big houses.
Yes.
I looked at real estate in Alabama this weekend, Francie. Yeah, you could.
You're thinking about moving there, are you?
Why?
Someday. Birmingham's the next city,
It's
actually.
really cheap in North Carolina.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Liz, you asked for additional information that might be useful. One of the things that we see, and I mentioned it briefly on the retirement aspect, is that within the same complex, a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom that has turned over a number of times, and a unit that hasn't turned over a number of times can create quite a delta between the units. So I'm wondering if it's possible to get if it's just a matter of plugging in a few numbers or making some links to find out what the average price for a 2-bedroom within a complex and a 3-bedroom within a complex. And what I'm getting at on this is if there's somebody in the retirement scenario that is retiring, they've had their unit for a long time, and that their price is going to be lower than what one that has turned over a number of times. And so I'm wondering if it's possible to bring a resale unit up to an average cost or average sale price within that complex, and then the delta could be used, might be able to be used as a funding an incentive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hear what you're saying. I mean, to start, if other board members are interested as well, maybe I could pull a sample from the inventory of units, let's say, in the same building, same category with different amounts of turnover, and see if there is a delta and what the delta is between those units. That could be a starting place to see the extent of that, but if other board members are interested in that as well.
Carson, I thought you mentioned that you knew of somebody in complex the same, that was a huge delta.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if somebody has been in a unit for 30, 35 years, they're just not, they're just not going to be the same value of a property that's turned over 7 times. And, the one that I mentioned to you is one was a mirror, 2 units, mirror images. One sold for $350 and the other one was $220. And they're same square footage. The older or the lower priced unit, the kitchen has been fully redone. I mean, they're very compatible, and they're over $100,000 difference in price, and that's just a result of the unit not turning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's something maybe we could pull some information on and see.
I mean, I can give you specific properties if you want to look.
Yeah, sure. If you have any, or we could think about what properties would make a lot of more sense to look at as well too.
Bless you.
But something we could bring back. Great, and I'm sure if you have other ideas, you can reach out as well. But otherwise, I'd expect in January also more of an annual capture of the data in the inventory as well, and hopefully with some more comparisons at a longitudinal look as well.
Yeah, and I have one more note here. If it's possible to capture when a unit is sold, how long that occupant had been in that unit before they sold it. I noticed that there was a Burlingame 3 that was listed here. Was that an initial sale, or was it a Burlingame 3 that already turned over once?
There was one that already turned over.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I was guessing. I'd have to look if we have that information and or how readily available it is. Sometimes just the way it resets when a home sales in the database, but maybe there's some info there, or at least we know how long someone's owned their home for as well. Okay.
Thank you, Liz.
Great. Thank
I
you,
really
everyone.
like the way you presented this.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Moving along. Next item, discussion on additional policy items for review of regulations in 2025.
So as Bethany mentioned last meeting, we are redoing the regulations in terms of clarity, organization, and to conform with the accessibility requirements. So so separate from that, for any policy updates, we're going to be bringing that to the board for approval based on conversations we've had in the past few months. For example, the retirement assets. Do we want to revisit how they're considered? Clarifying what a dependent is. So these all need regulation changes. So those are the ones we've kind of discussed. But we also wanted to give, as we're going through this process, we wanted to give the board an opportunity if there are other policy changes you'd like us to be developing as part of the overall regulation change. So I think we've captured the ones that we've discussed in the past 6 months or so, which we'll be putting in there, and we'll make it very clear which ones are policy changes and which is just organizational changes within the regulations. But we also wanted to make sure we gave you guys the opportunity to brainstorm or discuss or tell us what else you'd like to look at and assess it, so we're not redoing it all again in 6 months.
Okay. I mean, I'll say I heard one from Ward earlier during his comments, just with regard to the right-sizing pilot program.
I don't know if that's a policy or just.
But
something
it's in the
we advocate.
regulations.
It is in the regulations, so,
Right sizing one is.
yeah.
So you'd like to look at,
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an opportunity to gain units.
The incentivizing one,
Right.
Yeah.
oh, okay. So,
which we are working on.
what are we
so.
calling that? Buyouts?
Pilot
incentivizing?
program, I mean, the right-sizing pilot program, refinement.
For retiring.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with right sizing is with people that are staying in the program is you've got to find somebody to move into a smaller unit or a bigger unit, then you have to do your loans and everything else. And the retirement, I think, would just be simpler. Not as many constraints, not as many barriers or hurdles. So
I think in that same vein, though, right, it's not a either or. I mean, we've done the pilot program. Like we said, I don't think we've seen the success we would like. I think we should explore if there are ways to refine that as well.
yeah.
And this isn't your only shot at
Yeah.
policy updates, but we just, while we're going through this process, we wanted to make sure you had the opportunity. And of course, it was the board's discretion to instruct us to look at policy changes at any time. So this isn't your only opportunity, but we just wanted to make sure we had the chance.
We didn't want to miss anything that you specifically wanted
I
us
know.
to possibly deal with.
Well, we appreciate that.
Anything else?
Okay.
Okay. Great. We'll move on. We've got an executive session here. So I had a question for Tom on this one. Given the focus on transparency and accountability this board has taken, I just want to make sure that when we're going into executive session that it's absolutely necessary. So, with that, my question to Tom, is this a discussion that we could have outside of executive session?
Well, you can have any discussion outside of executive session. There's no law that requires anything to be done in executive session. Executive session is an option for certain types of activities that are specified in the statute. And one of those is when you're getting legal advice. This matter involves getting legal advice, but you can get legal advice as part of your public meeting if that's your choice. So, bottom line is the law doesn't dictate whether you go into executive session on this matter.
Yeah, I understand that. I was, I guess, asking for your opinion.
Well, what can I say? In addition to an either or is to, at this point, is to hear what the legal opinion that's involved is in a private meeting, an executive session, and then if you choose, go public with some or all of that. That's a third way through this.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Is this issue closed? It's not open for negotiations, or is it a closed issue?
This enforcement action that's the subject of the review is, as far as I understand, a closed file.
So how does the rest of the board feel about discussing this in open session if it's a closed file already?
I don't know what the harm would be if it's already closed.
I mean, my opinion is with the importance of what's at stake with all of our compliance actions, I think that we as a board, have to make sure that our actions are above reproach. And, it's my opinion that if we have investigated a matter and closed it, that we should be able to discuss it publicly.
Well, didn't Basalt get in trouble for doing a bunch of executive sessions at one point too? Just open records, and I think we've tried as a fire board to only do HR stuff in executive sessions.
If I could add to this, sometimes a discussion of an enforcement action, whether it's pending or closed, could involve discussion of information that might be considered confidential. For example, financial data, personal financial data, or something like that. I don't believe that any such information would come out of this discussion. So on that count, I'm not concerned about the discussion that would occur. It's all in documentary evidence, or the factual aspects of this are in documentary evidence in APCHA's files that are subject to public record disclosure. The legal opinions, of course, are different, and you're entitled to hear those in executive session if you choose.
Are you going to give us any legal opinions tonight? I mean, if it's already a closed session or a closed case, there isn't much to discuss other than we're just being informed of it. What's the point of it, I guess?
Francie, how do you feel about that?
I'm willing to go with Carson's opinion if he still feels that way.
I'm personally fine. If I don't see any information, we're discussing a memo from June 15th. Is that what we're?
Can I come up, please? I do.
Does it need to be red as opposed to green and up?
Yeah. This is like old school back in the old armory.
Yeah. I agree with Tom Smith that there's no requirement to go into executive session, but you do have to be careful about a couple of things that I just want to make sure that that everything's clear, because it did feel like this memo that was prepared by my assistant Kate Johnson at your request does provide certain legal opinions, and that could be considered privileged communications. You have the right to waive that, and if you did discuss this in public, I think it would be deemed waived. But I did want to make sure that you understood that there are legal opinions that are expressed, not magical, but certainly could be considered legal opinions that would have privilege associated with it that would be waived if you discuss it in public. I don't have.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with Jim on that.
Okay. Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions about the memo.
So there's an executive session on the agenda. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'm really looking at our legal advice. I know that there's some legal opinions in here. Is this whole case been released to the public through a CORA request? Is it public information? Is it subject to CORA?
The legal memo is not subject to CORA because it contains legal advice. If you're uncertain, I guess I could renew the suggestion I made, and I don't want you to think I'm trying to limit your discretion on this, but if you're uncertain about it, as I said, you can have the executive session, hear the legal opinions, and as part of that discussion, determine what portion or perhaps all of the information, including the opinions, you would choose to make public, and maybe even have a subsequent public discussion about the same item.
Yeah,
third way.
Why don't we go into executive session, discuss this, and if we deem fit, the memo could be the public.
Or the memo minus any sensitive information.
Sure. Could be the public, you know, this is what we release, right? I mean, I'd forgotten I read the memo, but it's basically just a rehash of the case, right?
In the interest of transparency, I'd like to be able to release as much information as possible, but to protect any legal opinions that should be confidential. I would second to go into executive session, review all the information, and then decide to release as much of this information as possible. Does that sound good to you, Carson?
Yeah, you're not foreclosed from going public just by having an executive session, so that should be clear.
I know from the city council side that there have been a couple of recent memos that we have discussed in executive session and decided to waive the confidential nature of it, or to waive it and release it to the public.
Correct. 2 recent cases.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. So any further discussion? Okay, it's a roll call vote.
Okay. Francie?
Aye.
Carson?
No.
John Ward?
I want to say yes.
Ward Hallenstein?
I'm going to say yes as well.
Peter's not here. I think that's it.
Okay.
So motion passed.
Motion passes. Okay, we'll take a short break to clear the room, and then we'll go into executive session.
Recording stopped.
Oh.
Move that
We are back from executive session.
move that we end the meeting.
We got a motion to adjourn from Ward,
I'll second that.
second from John Ward. And it is a roll call vote.
Okay, Francie?
Aye.
Is that a yes?
Oh, she's off the phone now, isn't she?
Oh, I muted that.
Okay, oh,
We had to mute that because we couldn't, we had to use the phone. We were getting echo.
okay, so, okay.
She's
she
giving
said
a
Give it a
yes.
thumbs
thumbs
up.
up, yes,
Great,
okay.
Great. Okay, Ward Hallenstein,
Yes.
John Ward,
Oh, sorry, yes.
Carson.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, meeting is adjourned, 6:28.
November 13th is the next meeting?
Yes,
Yes.
Oh, boy.
yeah, the next,
Hopefully we'll have a hot body to fill in the,
it would be nice.